Your next guy is obviously it's going to be an interesting one, and it was the first comment we had in the chat when we got in there.
Yes,
we were actually in the we got so as soon as I made the chat, we got in it and we were kind of going over things, and Jordan Schreiber jumped in immediately as we were talking, and we saw him post this, and he said, breakout player Jack Coan for 4,000 plus yards. Now, Jordan has said that several times, Vince, and I don't know about 4,000 yards, but he is definitely a guy that you have as a breakout player. And then I'm going to explain why I don't have him as a breakout player. Well, because people are like, wait, Driscoll, you're the guy that's been banging the Jack Coan drum since they got him. You know what's going on. I'll explain. But anyway, go ahead and explain why you have Jack Coan as a breakout player.
No, I'm also not ready to say 4,000 yards. I'm not quite there.
I just wonder if the Notre Dame offense is capable of doing that.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of my thing. I mean, 4,000 yards is a lot of yards.
So there's a lot of reasons that I picked Jack Coan, and I number one is I get to sit across from you and listen to you talk about Jack Coan and how much you love him. And
that's called indoctrination.
And eventually, it just starts sweeping over me. Yes, it's indoctrination. That's right. Yes. So that's part of it. But no, I do believe. Look, I think that he could be the perfect quarterback for what they want to do with this offense. Okay. And I hate to make this comparison, but it's similar to what Alabama did last year. Their quarterback was a distributor. He got the ball in the hands of the playmakers. Now, he had to have the cojones to fit it into some small windows and to make some throws that the previous quarterback at Notre Dame was unwilling or just didn't make. However whatever you want to say, the throws didn't get made. I think Jack Coan is willing to make a lot of those throws. And I think we've seen it in his film at Wisconsin. I think we saw a little bit of it in the spring game. I think we saw a little bit of it in the clips during spring. I think he's going to make those throws, or at the very least, attempt those throws. And you and I have had that conversation.
They don't beat that out of him. That's my only concern.
There is that. But you and I have had the conversation that, just because you throw deep doesn't mean you have to complete it. You need to throw deep to show that you're willing to throw deep, right? I mean, it's all of that combined, and I think Jack Coan is willing and able to do all of those things, and I think he is going to do all of those things. I'm going to hope that they're not going to beat that out of him. He's only there for a year. He's coming in with a lot of, preconceived ideas of how to play the quarterback position, and I think that he is I don't know if I want to use the word gunslinger, right? But he is willing to make some of those throws that we haven't seen at Notre Dame in the past few years. So for that reason, I like him as a breakout. And look, he's going to be the quarterback at Notre Dame, right? If they go on a winning streak, which I think that they have a very good chance of doing, they're favored in every game except the Wisconsin game, which I think is ridiculous, right? It was 1.5 last time I looked that they're not favored by. If he can take Notre Dame and put them, on a winning streak and they're ranked in the top 5, all of that, he's going to be the guy that they're going to be talking about, right? Because he's the quarterback of an undefeated team who is, has put up the numbers, because I do believe he's going to put up numbers because he's going to get the ball in the hands of the right guys. I think this offense is going to be able to put up some numbers. I'm not ready to go out and predict what those numbers are going to be, but I think they could be better than last year.
You're not doing that because we're going to have a show about that. I like what you did there. There you go.
So I think Jack Coan is poised to be a breakout player because of the weapons that he has around him, because of the offense that he is going to be engineering, and for the fact that I believe that he's going to make some of the throws that we have been begging the Notre Dame quarterback to make over the last 2 years. So I think he's got a great chance to be a big, big reason why Notre Dame is successful offensively this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all on board for that. I didn't pick him as one of my 3 because, number one, I'm going to save more conversation about him for a future topic that we're going to cover here very soon. But I don't disagree with anything you said. My only thing as far as breakout is, if I didn't think about it in the way you just did. So you're looking at it from sort of a perception breakout, just as much as, statistically, he's going to see a jump if he's what we think he's going to be, because Notre Dame's going to throw it more than he did at Wisconsin. But you're also talking about you're the quarterback of Notre Dame, so there's going to be a perception. And I didn't think about that. That's a really good point, because the way I looked at it is he's already won 10 games as starting quarterback and led a team to a Rose Bowl.
Oh, absolutely.
And they lost by like a point to a guy that was a top 10 NFL draft pick and was the NFL Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year last year. So that's kind of where I was looking at it, is like, he's kind of already done that. But to your point, that earned him zero respect because of, I'm seeing top 25 quarterback rankings come out and Jack Coan's not on there. Guys who've never started a game before on there, but Jack Coan's not on there, right? And so, yeah, to your point, I think there's still a disrespect about him because, that team was all about Jonathan Taylor. And yeah, Jonathan Taylor was a huge part of that team.
Sure.
But Jack Coan made some big-time throws in that season. And, you look at the Minnesota game, which was their biggest regular season win of the year, that was Jack Coan doing work in that game, not necessarily the running game. So I didn't really think about that point, Vince. I think that's a really good point to make about it's not just about the production. It's about that production at Notre Dame is going to equal this in regards to reception or perception. And that kind of leads to what we've talked recently about, the Heisman thing. We did a little answer to a question about recently whether or not Jack Coan could be a Heisman candidate. And the point that I've made is if Ian Book can be a top 10 Heisman finalist, and he was like 8th or 9th this past year.
Yeah.
With really pedestrian numbers, when you consider this isn't a shot at Ian Book, but anyone that's paying attention looks at the numbers he put up last year, compares them to what most Heisman finalists, not finalists, but top 10 guys put up, and it's not
guys
even close.
In the conversation.
He threw 15 touchdowns, and it wasn't like he had Eric Crouch like numbers as a runner.
Exactly.
So I think that if that can happen, what can Jack Coan do with 3,000 plus yards if he's to get there, and 30 or so touchdowns kind of thing, and hopefully do it in a way that's unlike what we saw in 2019, where it was like 17 of those touchdowns came in like 4 games against really bad teams. Right. And so hopefully it's production in the bigger games as well. But yeah, that's a really interesting take, Vince, that I didn't even think about is even if his numbers don't take a monstrous jump, his perception is going to be so much different. Right. And that's a really good observation.
I just think he is so flying under the radar right now nationally that I think that, he's going to be a breakout when it comes to his perception. And that's one of the reasons I love doing these kind of topics, because and also why I love coming up with our list before we talk to each other, because the parameters, they're just kind of wide open.
Keep them as open as you want to be. So that makes it a little bit more interesting conversation.
Absolutely. So Jack Coan is my last guy.